Imagine standing on the world's biggest stage, 11 years old, wearing a borrowed choir uniform, while a superstar with 80 million followers whispers threats in your ear and dares you to fail in front of millions. Now imagine you know his deepest secret. This is the true story of Maya Brooks, the girl who refused to be silenced, exposed one of music's biggest frauds, and paid a price no child should ever pay. But here's what they don't tell you about courage. Sometimes it costs everything, and sometimes it changes everything. There are moments in life when everything changes. When the world you thought you knew cracks open, and you see something you were never meant to see. For Maya Brooks, that moment came on a Tuesday afternoon in November, 3 hours before the biggest concert of the year, in a hallway that smelled like old carpet and lemon cleaner. She was 11 years old. Maya lived in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment on the south side of Chicago with her mother and 2 younger siblings. Her mother worked double shifts at a nursing home, coming home with aching feet and a smile she'd paced on just for them. There was never enough space, never enough money, never enough time, but there was always music. Maya had learned to sing in the basement of Cornerstone Baptist Church, where the piano was out of tune and the hymn books were held together with tape. She'd learned in the choir room at Lincoln Middle School, where Mrs. Patterson would stay late, teaching scales to kids who couldn't afford private lessons. And she'd learned late at night, humming softly in the bedroom she shared with her sister, practicing runs and breathing techniques she'd picked up from YouTube videos on her cracked phone screen. Music was the one thing that was hers. The one thing that made sense when nothing else did. When electricity got shut off, she sang. When her little brother cried because there wasn't enough dinner, she sang to him until he fell asleep. When her mother came home too tired to speak, Maya would hum old gospel songs while making sandwiches for tomorrow's lunch. She had perfect pitch. She didn't know that's what it was called until Mrs. Patterson told her. She just knew that when she heard a note, she could feel it in her bones, could identify it, replicate it, understand it in a way that seemed as natural as breathing. So when the letter came saying that Lincoln Middle School's choir had been selected to open for Logan Cross at the Grand Aurora Hall charity concert, Maya thought it was a miracle. Logan Cross. The Logan Cross. The biggest pop star on the planet, with 80 million followers and a voice that people called once in a generation. His signature note, a soaring high E that seemed to defy human capability, had become legendary. It was in every one of his hit songs. It was the moment in his concerts when the entire arena would go silent, holding their breath, waiting for that impossible sound. It was the note that had made him famous, that had sold out stadiums, that had made teenage girls cry and grown men shake their heads in disbelief. And now, Maya's little choir from the South Side was going to share a stage with him. The day of the concert, Maya arrived at the Grand Aurora Hall 4 hours early. The building was massive, all glass and steel and marble floors that echoed when you walked. She wore her choir uniform, a white blouse that was a little too big, borrowed from an 8th grader, and black pants that her mother had ironed 3 times to make the creases sharp. The other kids were buzzing with excitement, taking selfies in the lobby, practicing their parts. But Maya felt pulled somewhere else. She wandered, the way kids do when they're trying to look like they belong somewhere they don't. Through hallways lined with photos of famous performers, past dressing rooms with stars on the doors, until she found herself in a corridor near the main stage, where she could hear something that made her stop cold. Someone was singing, warming up. The voice was good, trained, polished, confident. But something was wrong. Maya pressed closer to the door. She shouldn't be here. She knew that. But her feet wouldn't move. The voice was attempting a high note, reaching for it, straining, and then cracking, breaking, falling short. Again, a frustrated voice said. Logan Cross's voice. She recognized it from interviews, from songs, from videos she'd watched 100 times. The note was attempted again. Same result. The strain was audible, the reach just a little too far, the sound just a little too forced. It's not working, Logan said, and Maya could hear the edge in his voice. Just turn on the track. There was a moment of silence. Then music filled the space. A backing track, full and rich. And when Logan sang again, suddenly, miraculously, the note was there. Perfect. Crystalline. Impossible. But Maya's perfect pitch caught what no one else would have noticed. The frequencies didn't match. The note that was coming through the speakers, that legendary, impossible high E, wasn't coming from Logan's throat. It was layered in, mixed in, hidden in the production. And more than that, it wasn't even the same voice. The timbre was different. The resonance. The color of the sound. Someone else was singing Logan Cross's signature note. Maya's hand flew to her mouth. Her heart hammered in her chest. She stood there in that hallway, frozen, as the truth washed over her in cold waves. The biggest star in the world was a fraud. She should have walked away right then. Should have gone back to her choir, lined up with the other kids, sung her 3 songs, and gone home to her cramped apartment to tell her mother about the magical night. She should have kept this secret locked inside, where it couldn't hurt anyone. But she didn't. Because Maya Brooks had been taught, in that basement church and in her mother's quiet example, that the truth mattered. Even when it was hard. Even when it was dangerous. Especially then. The contrast between Maya's world and Logan Cross's world couldn't have been starker. While Maya practiced scales in a bedroom with peeling wallpaper, Logan rehearsed in studios that cost $10,000 a day. While Maya's mother worked herself to exhaustion to keep the lights on, Logan's team of 20 people managed his brand, his image, his empire. While Maya sang for the joy of it, for the ache of it, for the need of it, Logan sang because it made him rich and famous and untouchable. His origin story was legendary. The scrappy kid from nowhere who walked into an audition and hit a note that made the judges weep. The underdog who became a superstar on the strength of raw, undeniable talent. The authentic voice in a world of manufactured pop stars. That note had become his brand. His identity. The proof that he was special, chosen, gifted beyond measure. Music critics called it the purest sound in contemporary music. Scientists had written papers analyzing the physics of it. Fans had tattooed the frequency on their bodies. And it was all a lie. Maya carried that knowledge through the next 3 hours like a stone in her stomach. She stood with her choir in the wings, warming up, going through their parts. Mrs. Patterson gave them a pep talk about representing their school with pride. The other kids were giddy, nervous, electric with excitement. Maya felt numb. When they walked onto that massive stage, the lights blinding and hot, the audience stretching back into darkness, Maya sang her parts perfectly. Mechanically. Her body knew what to do even while her mind spun in circles. The choir sang 3 songs. The audience clapped politely. They were good, really good, but nobody had come to see them. They were the warm-up act, the feel-good opening, the charity case that made the event look wholesome. The forgotten children from the forgotten neighborhood, singing their hearts out for people who would never remember their names. When they finished, they filed off stage. The lights dimmed. The crowd's energy shifted, became electric, became hungry. And then Logan Cross walked out. The roar was deafening. Screams and cheers, and a wall of sound that Maya could feel in her chest. He was beautiful in the way that famous people are beautiful, lit perfectly, styled perfectly, moving with the easy confidence of someone who'd never doubted his place in the world. He sang his hits. The crowd sang along. Thousands of voices, millions of dollars of production. All for this man who had built an empire on a lie. Maya watched from the wings. She should have looked away. Should have gone to the dressing room with the other kids. But she couldn't move. Couldn't stop watching. Couldn't stop knowing what she knew. And then, in the middle of his 4th song, Logan's eyes found her. She saw the moment of recognition. The calculation. The decision. He stopped singing. The music continued, but he walked to the edge of the stage, microphone in hand, and he smiled. The crowd went silent, curious, waiting. "You know," Logan said, his voice warm and charming. "We have some special young people here tonight. The amazing choir from Lincoln Middle School who opened our show." The audience applauded. Maya's choir mates started cheering, thinking this was a beautiful moment, a kind acknowledgement. But Maya saw his eyes. And they weren't kind. "Let's bring one of them back out here," Logan continued. "How about you?" He pointed directly at her. Come on up here, sweetheart. The other kids pushed her forward, excited, thinking she'd won some kind of lottery. Mrs. Patterson was beaming. The audience was clapping. And Maya walked back onto that stage with her heart in her throat because she understood something that none of them did. Logan Cross knew that she'd heard something. Maybe he'd seen her in the hallway. Maybe someone had told him. Maybe he just knew the way predators always know when someone's seen them without their mask. And now he was going to make sure she couldn't tell anyone. She reached center stage. Logan put his arm around her shoulders, the gesture looking paternal, protective. The audience cooed, but his grip was tight, too tight. He lowered the microphone between them, and the audience fell silent, eager to see what would happen next. "What's your name?" he asked, all warmth for the cameras. "Maya," she said softly. Her voice barely carried through the speakers. "Maya," he repeated, turning to the audience. "Let's hear it for Maya, everybody." More applause. More cheers. All of it feeling wrong, scripted, dangerous. "You know, Maya," Logan said, and his voice dropped just slightly, became more intimate. "I'm famous for a particular note. You know the one I'm talking about." She nodded. "I bet a talented girl like you has tried to hit it, haven't you? In your bedroom? In the shower?" The audience laughed. "Let's see if you can do it. Right here.
Right now.
Show everybody what you've got." The crowd erupted in encouragement. They thought this was generous. They thought he was giving a poor kid from the South Side her moment in the spotlight. But Maya heard what they didn't, because his microphone wasn't muted. And she heard him whisper, so quiet that only she could hear. "Don't embarrass me, kid. Don't you dare." The threat was clear. He was setting her up to fail. An 11-year-old girl, on the spot, with no preparation, trying to hit an impossible note in front of millions. And when she failed, because of course she would fail, that's what he was counting on. No one would ever believe anything she said about him. Who would trust the word of a child who just humiliated herself on stage? There are moments when you have to choose who you're going to be. Not who you want to be, not who you wish you could be, but who you actually are when everything is on the line. Maya Brooks stood in that spotlight, feeling Logan Cross's fingers digging into her shoulder, hearing the echo of his whispered threat, and she made her choice. She looked up at him. Then she looked out at the audience. Thousands of faces in the darkness, all waiting, all expecting her to fail. And she spoke. "I'll try," Maya said, her voice small but clear through the microphone. "But first, can you turn off the backing track?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Logan's smile froze. Just for a second. Just long enough for Maya to see the panic flash across his face before he recovered. "What?" He laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Sweetie, there's no backing track. This is live." "There is," Maya said. Her heart was hammering so hard she thought everyone could hear it. "I heard the sound check earlier. The note, your note, it's not you singing it."
Not really.
The murmurs started then. A ripple through the crowd, confusion spreading like wildfire. Logan's publicist was probably having a heart attack backstage. His manager was probably already dialing lawyers. But Maya couldn't stop now. She'd jumped off the cliff. There was no climbing back up. "That's ridiculous," Logan said, and his voice had an edge now, the charm cracking like old paint. "You're just nervous, honey. It's okay. Let's just—" "I have perfect pitch," Maya interrupted. She'd never interrupted an adult in her life. Her mother would have been horrified. But the words were pouring out now, unstoppable. "I can hear frequencies. The note on your albums, the note in the backing track, it's not the same voice as when you sing live. It's a different timbre, different resonance. It's someone else." The audience wasn't murmuring anymore. They were silent. Utterly, completely silent. 20,000 people holding their breath. Logan's face changed. The mask didn't just slip, it shattered. She saw anger flash in his eyes, saw his jaw clench, saw the calculation happening behind his smile. "That's a pretty serious accusation from a little girl who doesn't know anything about professional audio production," he said, and his voice was ice wrapped in silk. "You're embarrassing yourself." "Then prove it," Maya said. Her voice was shaking now, but she held her ground. Sing the note.
Right now.
No track. No production. Just you. The challenge echoed through the grand Aurora Hall. For a moment, nothing happened. Logan just stared at her, this 11-year-old girl in a borrowed blouse who'd just called him a liar in front of the world. She could see him weighing his options. Walk off. Laugh it off. Sing and hope no one noticed if he failed. But the audience was watching now. Really watching. And Logan Cross hadn't gotten where he was by backing down. Fine, he said, and his smile was razor-sharp. Cut the track. The music stopped. The silence that followed was absolute, suffocating. Maya could hear her own heartbeat. Could hear someone coughing in the back of the auditorium. Could hear the hum of the lights overhead. Logan stepped away from her, moved to center stage. He rolled his shoulders, stretched his neck. Buying time. The crowd waited. And then he sang. He took the run-up perfectly. The melody that led to the note, the build that everyone knew by heart. His voice was good.
Trained.
Professional. But as he reached for that legendary high E, as he pushed his voice up and up and up toward the note that had made him famous, he missed. Not by much, but enough. The note came out strained, slightly flat, the sound of someone reaching for something just beyond their grasp. His voice cracked at the top, broke, faltered. The sound that emerged wasn't crystalline or pure or impossible. It was just human, fallible, ordinary. He tried to recover, tried to play it off as a choice, but the damage was done. The audience had heard it. The microphones had caught it. In that moment, millions of people watching the live stream heard what Maya had heard in the soundcheck. Logan Cross couldn't hit his own signature note. The murmurs came back, louder now. People pulling out their phones, recording, tweeting, texting. The moment going viral in real time. That's not. Logan started, his composure crumbling. The acoustics in here are different. The monitoring is off. I'm not warmed up properly. You failed, Maya said quietly. Because it's not your note. It never was. Logan's face flushed red. He took a step toward her, and for a second, Maya thought he might actually grab her, might hurt her right there on stage. But then a voice cut through the tension. She's right. Everyone turned. A man had walked onto the stage from the wings, older, wearing a headset and a crew shirt. The sound engineer. Maya recognized him from the soundcheck. I'm sorry, Logan, the man said, and he didn't sound sorry at all. He sounded tired.
Relieved.
But I can't do this anymore. The kid's right. That note, it's from a session recording. It's been mixed into every live performance for 3 years. The voice belongs to Marcus Chen, a session singer who was paid $5,000 and signed an NDA. The grand Aurora Hall erupted. People shouting, some booing, some cheering, security trying to maintain order. Logan was yelling at the sound engineer, at his manager who'd rushed the stage, at anyone who would listen. But his words were drowned out by the chaos. And in the middle of it all, Maya stood frozen. She'd done it. She'd told the truth. She'd exposed the lie. She just hadn't thought about what would happen next. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Within an hour, the video had 20 million views. Within a day, it was everywhere: news channels, social media, morning shows, think pieces about authenticity in the music industry. Logan's representatives released a statement calling it a misunderstanding and threatening legal action against defamatory claims made by a minor. But the truth had teeth now. It wouldn't let go. Marcus Chen, the real vocalist, came forward with contracts, recording sessions, proof that he'd been the voice behind Logan's signature note for years. Other session musicians started talking about similar arrangements with different artists. Music journalists dug into Logan's entire catalog, finding more evidence of studio manipulation, lip-syncing, fraud. Sponsors dropped him. Concert venues canceled tours. The lawsuits started piling up, from fans who felt defrauded, from investors who'd put money into his brand, from venues that had sold tickets based on false advertising. Logan Cross's empire began to crumble. But so did Maya's life. The harassment started that same night. Logan's fans, millions of them, descended on Maya like locusts. They found her school, her address, her mother's workplace. Death threats flooded her mother's phone. People showed up at their apartment building, screaming, filming, calling Maya a liar, a jealous nobody, a child who destroyed a good man's career. Her school received bomb threats. They had to close for 3 days. The other kids in her choir blamed her. Some of their parents did too. Mrs. Patterson tried to protect her, but even she looked exhausted, overwhelmed. Maya's mother had to take leave from work. They couldn't afford it, but they couldn't risk going outside. They put blankets over the windows. They stopped answering the door. Maya's little brother asked why everyone was so angry. Her sister cried herself to sleep.